What's up, you big, beautiful Madridistas? Kiyan Sobhani here, recording this one shortly after Real Madrid take care of business pretty comfortably in a very fun and eventful manner. 5-1 against Salzburg at home in the Champions League, putting us now in a comfortable place in the Champions League standings where we can breathe. Breathe with me. If you're on YouTube Live, let's do this meditation together. We're safe. We're safe. All right. Before we get started, hey Jude, this shirt that you see me wearing right now, my favorite shirt that our resident cartoonist Finn has designed. So comfortable. I pretty much have been wearing it to every podcast. Thankfully, I have been washing it, here and there. I can't say like I've been washing it too much, but enough to wear it enough on this podcast almost daily. This is on sale only until February 1st. And then it will disappear forever. The link is in the chat right now. The link will be in the show notes. Hey, Jude, 3 key passes tonight, 3 completed dribbles. And with that out of the way, let's get started. Real Madrid 5, Salzburg 1, Champions League edition. Let's go.
Nice article in the Managing Madrid blog. Wonderful lads that do a great job there. And worth reading about that man there. Karim Benzema needs to rest, and the numbers reveal why.
Times ended up almost looking like a 6-3-1. Some very good writing about that on the Managing Madrid website. First-rate podcast as well. Of course, Fede Valverde was a huge part of the equation.
All right, Siddharth Ramsundar is going to be joining me to break this one down. Lucas Navarrete is at the Bernabeu right now as press. He is probably in the press conference seat waiting for the coaches to come out. He told me he's going to send me a voice note or two, and I will play the voice note on the podcast. So, Sid, I know you're listening. Just remind me in case I forget. Before we get started here, tacsports.ca. Quick shout out to our presenting sponsor. They took incredible care of us in Toronto. We are going back to TAFC Academy once per year for a podcast and pickup footy session. And they got the best facilities, the best academies, the best football clinics, basketball clinics, soccer clinics. They got March break camps coming up. So if you're in Toronto and you're anywhere near that city, that area, go to tacsports.ca, sign your kids up for almost any sport you can think of. They got elite camps for your children. Go to tacsports.ca and sign up. As always, thank you to the amazing, amazing people at tacsports.ca. Also, shout out to our presenting sponsor, moji-mates.com. I would say the shirt that you guys should go and purchase from moji-mates.com tonight is Dani Ceballos. And Sid and I will explain to you why in a second. But go to moji-mates.com. You can get any shirt you want, your favorite player, whether it's Jude Bellingham, whether it's Vinicius Jr., Kylian Mbappe, moji-mates.com, moji-mates.com. Really fun swag. Go there and cop your Dani Ceballos man of the match in today's Champions League victory. All right. It's time to break it down. Let's talk about football. Sid, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Good. Probably the easiest game of the season. Like, they were so bad. That was a very easy team. I know a lot of people want to celebrate the team, but today my big impression was that was a bad team. That was like they're not even mid-table La Liga. Like, they're really like the best top 5-6 teams in Austria are like maybe mid-table La Liga, like on a better day. So I thought that was way too easy, man. Like, their defending was a joke. It was fun for the guys. They got some confidence, but it's not going to look this easy many times again this season.
I agree with you. I just want to point out that being said, because if you look at it, 2 easy games in a row. Las Palmas basically let us do whatever the hell we wanted to do in that game. We had a season high 6.14 XG, according to Understat. I know Mark StatSpot had it at 5 something, so it was a little lower there. But either way, it was a season high in our XG chart. Today, I don't know what it was, but it was also very high. Salzburg, as you mentioned, I mean, they're 5th in the Austrian league. But sometimes, Sid, you just need these games to catch a break. You need to play some bad opponents, stat pad, get your confidence back, get your mojo back, and buy yourself some time. Because as we know right now, the goal is to keep yourself alive until you can figure it out, get healthy, which really is an impossible dream, that part of it. But to just get it together, get rhythm, figure some stuff out tactically, and let players get their mojo going. We know Mbappe is catching form. Vinny looked great today. Rodyrgo looked great today. Jude Bellingham looked great today. Dani Ceballos looked great today. Luka Modric looked great today. So there was a lot of nice things happening, and this is great for our confidence levels. Las Palmas and Salzburg back-to-back. Not the most formidable opponents, but hey, you do what you have. Like, they got the job done. The execution was great. They played really well, so credit to them. Where do you want to start? I mean, I kind of know where I want to start, but I'd like to know where you want to start.
I mean, we could just start at 0-0. I feel like just how we approached the game, because after we scored, I think their lack of quality just was the story of the game. But at least before we scored, you maybe got a glimpse of what the game would have been like if we don't score so early, if on their better nights, which was like the first 10 minutes. I really want to just start with the first 10 minutes when it's so funny how before we score, we just don't have a way to win the ball back. And that like lineup they put out today was very much we're going to get to keep most of the ball lineup. Because Ceballos and Modric together, like we're only doing that against the worst teams this season. We're not doing that against I mean, if we do that in a big game, that you've got me. But I don't think we'll put 39-year-old Modric and like the more technician who can put in a tackle, but a technician in Ceballos. So I thought there was room to hurt us defensively. And the way it played out was like they're just not good. So the first 9 minutes of the game, 10 minutes, like we're not winning the ball back. They're just kind of passing it around. And the other thing is like, I guess they know we're weak. So when they get the ball, they kind of come at us and they leave a lot of space in behind. So we saw from the beginning, they're going to leave space in behind. We're not going to win the ball back so much. But anytime we do, there's space because they think they can play through us correctly because we suck on defense. So that was the first story of the first 10, 20 minutes. And as soon as we scored, it just went from like they think they can play through us to they don't have a choice. And then space all the time. What do you think? I thought like the first 10 minutes, though, I was just like they don't have a way to win it back. Like best in possession unit, maybe the worst out of possession unit we could put out.
Well, if I'm not mistaken, by the time that Rodyrgo scored in the 23rd minute, that was Real Madrid's first shot. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure like after 20 minutes, we had not shot the ball. And you kind of diagnose why. The front three were not getting the ball at all in this game. Like we were not escaping the half. Salzburg were pressing high. And I actually liked some of our movement to escape the pressure. I think Ceballos was very good in just making sure he was there as an outlet on every sequence. But collectively, we could not escape our half and get the ball to the attackers. But like you alluded to, like Salzburg are not going to punish you that severely in a game like this. It might make it a little bit more uncomfortable for you to start. Once Real Madrid kind of rode that initial wave, Salzburg just couldn't sustain it, and then they were blown away. And with each goal, basically the game just kind of opened up a little bit more, and then the floodgates opened. I think if you look at the watershed moment, I like the first goal because it kind of, to me, summarized a lot of good things that eventually became true of like how Real Madrid approached this game, how they executed. Fede Valverde makes an interception. The ball falls to Ceballos. He's there as an outlet. He gets the ball immediately without even thinking twice. He's already zipped the ball vertically to Mbappe without even thinking. Before he gets it, he knows where the ball is going. He knows he has to hit that vertical ball. Very uncomplicated, point A to point B. Mbappe gets it, quick transition attack. Vinny gets it, beautiful pass to Rodyrgo, which I didn't realize it was actually Jude that got the assist for that play because he got a touch on it. It wasn't Vinny. In my head, it was Vinny, but then I rewatched it. It was Jude. So Jude had 2 assists today. And then Rodyrgo scores. I liked it for a couple of reasons. That Fede Valverde at right back is an interesting talking point. The main reason, let's be honest, that he started at right back today was because Lucas Vazquez wasn't in the squad. And I was reading, I'm reading Carlo Ancelotti's book, Quiet Leadership. And the section I came across today was like, he comes across a lot of accidental discoveries, as he puts it, throughout his coaching career. And I was thinking, like, not that this is an accidental discovery, but if you at least stumble upon the realization that you cannot field Lucas Vazquez, especially in big games, to me, Fede Valverde, in some ways, even though he was not Cafu, he was not this like offensive Armageddon at the right back position, providing overloads and underloads. He was just competent at the right back. And to me, that was kind of like addition by subtraction. We did not have this huge liability at that position. We didn't have our right back getting cooked every 2 seconds. He just stood his ground. I think maybe there was one sequence where Salzburg did get in behind and between him and Asensio. But for the most part, like Fede Valverde just stood his ground, defended well. He actually had some nice aerial challenges from that position that Vazquez can't do.
Yeah.
And look, this is not a long-term solution. This might not even be an immediate solution if you just give people like Aguado or Forte a chance. But right now, if we go into a big game, I think you have to look at this as a solution.
Yeah, I mean, I was after the Clásico, I said they're gonna do this. Like I assumed Asensio, Fede, Rodyrgo, Mendy is how we go out after that. And I know there were reports we could try Mendy at right back, but I think this is the one where everyone's an individual, like one-on-one good defender. It definitely made a difference. I guess the thing is, there are two sides to it. There's obviously it's for big games. This was a small game. But the fact that they put it out in this game tells me like Carlo's a little nervous. Because honestly,
yeah, I think we played our full strength 11 today.
Yeah, and honestly, like it's just funny because Vazquez, like this is one of the few games in the season that you could probably get away with Vazquez left, and we didn't even play him because we're scared. So I guess this is what I expected though. I expected Fede at right back. I just don't know what you can conclude this game because, like, you know, as you said, it's a weak offense. It did make life way easier. It's just like we could probably win 5-1 with Lucas there too. It probably doesn't look the same defensively. I agree with you. I just want to see it against tougher teams. Like it's like the gap was the small, like the difference between Fede and Lucas was small in this game just because they sucked. So
they didn't have someone who could really go at Fede. That's true. You know, but I also think on an individual 1v1 defensive basis, Fede is better. So you have something to go by in that sense. He's also better in the air. He's stronger. Those things I think help. It stacks in his favor.
I'm pretty sure when Carlo went to Perez after the Clásico, he would have said, all right, like I'm putting Fede at right back, Asensio, like if this doesn't work, whatever, I shrug. I'm pretty sure that's what he told him. Like that's how the meeting goes. And because I mean, this is exactly what I was saying after the Clásico. If you only fire him if there's no other lineup to go to. This is the lineup. To be honest, like I am very excited to see it in a bigger game. Just the defensive solidity. You think Rodyrgo plays in the bigger game too, on the right wing?
Yeah, I mean, especially with Camavinga injured now, because it was often down to them too. Like, would you insert an extra midfielder or would you go with Rodyrgo and play a different style of football? And it looked great today. And again, I mean, I think Carlo played in what his mind was the full strength lineup based on who was available today, which, you know, that includes, you know, Tchouaméni wasn't 100%, Vazquez couldn't play. So then you go with Fede Valverde and Asensio right back and then right center back. But it's true that there wasn't a lot of, you know, Salzburg didn't really have the firepower to test them much.
Yeah, and I guess with Tchouaméni being out, you don't even know if Asensio was played there, like because it's the Gala 11 or because Tchouaméni's out. So still many questions remain, but this is the back line we need to have a chance, I think, in the Champions League. Like this is the back line we needed to have a chance against Barcelona. This better be the El Clásico back line next time we play them.
The only thing is, like, I was looking at the lineup. There was one name that I was like, if I'm going based on merit, should be there. I think Fran Garcia is getting kind of left up to dry in some of these situations because Carlos still trusts Mendy over Fran Garcia. There were a couple of moments in this game where Mendy just, like, I was just looking like jaw agape at the decision. Like there was one where Rodyrgo was completely open in the right half space. It was following a set piece routine. Mendy was on the right and he looks up. He just does not really have the ability or the vision to hit that pass. And he just blindly kicks it into the box with his right foot. And look, Mendy is what it is. Fede Valverde did not get into the opposing half at all this game. If you look at his heat map, until He switched to midfield later on in the game. He had that ball carry sequence, which led to Vinny's second goal. But we didn't really have anything from our fullbacks this game offensively. And it didn't really matter because the front four were so good, and Ceballos and Modric were so good in their ball progression as well. It didn't matter. I did want to have a segment about Dani Ceballos because going way back to when I was describing the first goal, Ceballos was so good in that goal, but all game. And I think he actually is our best solution to the 6 right now. He protected zone 14. He was blocking shots. He was tracking both half spaces. He was covering for both fullbacks. He was pressing like a maniac. I think he had like close to 100% passing accuracy, which is crazy because it's not like he had 5 passes. He had 87 passes, 98.9% passing accuracy. And like the pass we just described for the first goal, a lot of these are just progressive passes. They're not, simple passes. Luka Modric was also great, 128 passes. He also had an assist. I like Ceballos' ball progression. I like his energy on defense. I think he has to play. I mean, right now, like, what options do we have also? Ceballos is playing great. Camavinga's injured. And Tchouaméni, we all kind of have our struggles with Tchouaméni, although he did have a good game as the 6th last game.
Yeah, the midfield's nice. I don't know how many games we can play them together. I guess Ceballos has made his way into the big game lineup. He's a cruise imitator. It's just what it is. Like, he doesn't lose confidence that easily. Like, he's been in and out of lineups for years, whereas Tchouaméni, one bad game kind of has him down. A few bad moments have him down. He doesn't lose confidence at all. That's something Gerard Hector brought up on a recent show too, because that's so important, I think, with our players. Just a quick thing on Mendy. There are two competing elements with this. There's one where the club feels like it can rehab him the way Carvajal just kind of went in and out of like form last few years. Like last year we got gluten-free Carvajal, the year before we didn't. And he looked embarrassing at points for an athlete, and then we trusted him. Another bigger example for me is Nacho last season. I feel like just Mendy fighting back into the lineup last season, and then the turbulence with Nacho is why the club wants to rehab him. But the third, I think, the competing angle, which I think is a fallacy, is I think they're looking at the metrics with Mendy. Because statistically with him, he is one of the highest, like, he is literally one of the highest accuracy playmakers in Europe in terms of, like, actual percentage of passes made. Last season, there was a metric Mark Stats had of, like, yardage gained, and he was one of the highest. Is ridiculous. So, if you like, obviously when you watch the game, it's horrible, but they're just like, hey, he won't lose the ball that much, is what they tell themselves with him. And we've won with him before. Like, what would need to change for him to be the same Mendy we won the Champions League with? The reality is he just have to defend better. His offense has always sucked, right? Like,
so this is kind of a recurring topic, but Mendy at Lyon actually was a decent offensive player. And somewhere that kind of just got a layer of offensive paint just got removed from his game year to year, and now it's just getting like incredible. Like there was a cross he had in the second half today. I was shocked he had a cross. I'm like, I haven't seen that. In Fran Garcia, in the span of 5 minutes, will make more offensive runs than Mendy does in the season. So, like, the answer to your question is like, what will it take for Mendy to get?
That's the other thing. It's like in these big games, we're not going to keep the ball so much. So if we don't keep the ball a lot, we don't really have room for fullbacks to advance. If we don't have rooms for fullbacks to advance, the reality is like the gap between Fran and Mendy is large. The more we keep the ball, and the more we want to play like settled possession. I think in the big games, we don't want to play settled possession. So Carlo's like, what is an overlap going to do other than risk their right winger getting in behind? I don't agree with it. I'm just saying, right. It just reminds me of Nacho last season when he was like giving up chances and they're like, hey, he's going to lock. They just decided they will trust him to lock up Haaland in April. And what did he do? He locked up Haaland in April.
Yeah, you're explaining the thought process behind playing him basically. And I think this is the thing with Carlo. Carlo has never been a reactionary manager. He will ride with players through bad form over and over again. He's done it with Rodyrgo. He's done it with Tchouaméni. He's done it with pretty much every star he's ever trusted. He does not believe like if players have a bad performance, 2 bad performances, 3 bad performances, that's not enough to dissuade him. He's not reactionary in that sense, and I'm actually okay with that. I do think if you're going to talk yourself into Mendy being influential this season, he has to get like last year, those knockout phases and until the end, the final, he started to defend really well. Like we know how Mendy can. And I think he hasn't shown that level yet. So if he gets to that level, great. So this is what we're talking about. I also think for what it's worth, Fran Garcia is underrated defensively. He's putting in some good defensive shifts.
I don't think he's bad. That's where I like the flip side for me is like, is Mendy that much like, is Fran going to make that many mistakes that Mendy doesn't make anymore? That's where I'm skeptical. It's just like, I feel like they've settled just watching that game. If there's one thing I really feel though, I feel like they've decided it's Fede right back, Mendy left back in the big games. Maybe there's more room. Maybe this is such a weird season.
I honestly don't know if he settled on Fede right
Maybe it's a weird season. And that was going to bring me to talk about Ceballos. But what struck me watching today is like Ceballos, Modric look good. Is this the first like 7-8 game stretch where like the same midfielder, other than Jude is great. Like he's had a stretch now since December where he's been great. But is this the first stretch of games where a midfielder has had a consistent role in build up on this team all season? Like, I just kind of strike me. I'm like, because I'm so used to watching a team and having a framework, Kiyan, on how to analyze them. Like, Cruz plays here. You know what I mean? Like, even for our standards, I'm saying, even by our standards, like Cruz drops to the left half space. When Casemiro's here, he vacates so that like we can escape the press and he can crash the box. This team, it's a different lineup every week. It's a different like role for different players in the team every week. And I feel like Ceballos, I mean, as it so often happens here, has just kind of seized it out of nowhere. With that said, I feel like there is potential for him to build on this, but he needs to play. Like we have to, I don't know if we can just move him in and out of the lineup and then he shows up in April against Arsenal or Liverpool and then we survive and he plays the Cruz role. I think we have to build on this system like consistently for the rest of the season.
So I think the answer to your question is have we seen consistently someone come in all season and is Ceballos the most consistent ball progressor? What we've had consistently is Jude is like the second outlet ball. Jude is the guy who kind of shows between the lines a little bit higher up the pitch. We haven't had the consistent quarterback to get him the ball. Sometimes it's been Camavinga, but he's been in and out of the team. Like he's missed so many games. He's had a couple bad games before he got injured again. He's had some good moments too. Don't get me wrong. Tchouaméni has been pretty unreliable. Luka Modric in and out. Dani Ceballos is probably the most reliable right now to get Jude that outlet ball. I think it was also cool to get like maybe a glimpse of the future in that last game against Las Palmas. And you've seen this over the last 12 months or so, maybe less. But Arda Güler can get in those positions too. But I think he's still a little bit farther away from the finished project. So that one is kind of a work in progress. But, you know, prototypically, I think he can do it too.
And Güler is tricky. Güler is tricky because he's not always being played in the Ceballos role. The other thing, sometimes he's in the Brahim Rodyrgo, like kind of between the lines tweener role. Sometimes he's in the midfield 3. I think Güler could do it if he played the same position again and again, but not like this. Not as an impact sub who's a deep playmaker some days and a winger other days.
Right. Listen, we have. It's funny because Sid and I joked. We are actually serious before we start recording. We said 30 minutes. Bam, in and out, quick fire analysis. And we're 23 minutes in. We have 6 super chats. We've probably gone through 50% of my notes. We gotta play some Lucas voice notes in the press conference. So here we go, Sid. We're gonna speed it up, buddy.
Give me 40. It's gonna be 40, all right?
Sid, before we get started on all of that, give us your thoughts on the U.S. politics right now. What? Please don't do that. I'm totally joking.
All right, American. I'm just kidding.
Mr. Sushi 22 coming in with the first super chat. He says, first, great game from Mbappe and Rodyrgo. Second, Barca fans better never complain about penalties again. Third, F City, great 2 days of football. Wow. See, these are the things that open cans of worms. Digressing and talking about the shit show of yesterday between Barca Benfica, the shit show of Atletico versus Bayer Leverkusen. Manchester City out of the top 24 of the Champions League right now. Whew. Let's focus on Mbappe and Rodyrgo really quick. Mbappe maybe not as kind of lively as he was the last couple of games, but I thought, made some positive runs. Maybe not as crisp with his touches, but looked good. Very Benzema-esque. One thing that actually did stand out with Mbappe today, and I'm not even saying because he scored a carbon copy of Karim Benzema's signature goal, which is press the hell out of the goalkeeper, put a voodoo spell on him, and get him to give you the ball and score in an empty net. But he actually was working hard press with his press today, which is not something we often see from him. I like the energy. It's been a total 180 of positivity and body language with him.
I figured he would start defending at some point, because even Cristiano would do this. Like what we're seeing now, like when he cared, you remember, like he wouldn't press all game, but there would be moments, 10, 15 minutes, you could tell the team is on, Cristiano's on, he goes for it. He doesn't hold back. But yeah, I agree. It was great. Yeah, F City. Always F City. After a 10-year contract, we'll get him anyways. If he wants to come here, we're breaking that contract, City. Just know. I'm pretty sure he has a Real Madrid clause, is the rumor, anyways.
Wait, who are we talking about?
Erling Haaland. He signed a 10-year deal with Man City.
Haaland, 10-year deal. Yeah.
Real Madrid clause.
Rodyrgo, couple goals today. Two beautiful goals.
Rodyrgo, he's doubling his XG now. I just want to get ahead of this before people get angry. This is great, but he has this hot streak. Can he, how long does this continue? Can he keep it at a 1-to-1 goal to XG ratio? He's doubling his XG right now. Career high in non-penalty goals and assists per 90. Career low in non-penalty expected goals and assists per 90, Kiyan. So it's not looking great from a stat standpoint, but from an eye test standpoint, it looks great. And I guess we've been here with him before. I think since he's not the primary creator, he's allowed to. I think he's receiving the ball in much more advanced areas than previous seasons. If you feel that, when the ball gets to him, he's running in behind a lot more. Before, he would have to create and finish the move a bit more because we only had 3 guys. Now we have 4. So as we talked about, Rodyrgo gets better with Mbappe's presence by feasting on spaces, but that's not showing in the numbers, Kiyan. His XG is lower than ever. He's just much more decisive with his shooting. What do you think?
A couple points on what you said. I'll start with the criticisms and then I'll move into the positives. There's no criticisms of him today, to be clear. I think the criticism I had of him last year was that when he showed up in the Champions League during this stretch at the end, it was ecstatic, right? I mean, he showed up, he scored against City in both legs. My thing with him was always, it's great that you show up in the clutch. It's a huge way that I measure greatness, but we need you to be consistent throughout the year. It can't be just that. If I had to choose, I would choose just the clutch moments, but we really need it all year round, that production. Tim Grover has this great thing. I know you read Relentless, and he has this thing in the book where he really criticizes people who show up in the big moments, because with Michael, it was every moment is the same. You show up in training the same way you show up in the NBA final game 7. There's no time you take off at all. You're always switched on. And so I think if we got all around production from Rodyrgo more often, it would help with consistency. So what I liked about him today, he was very present, omnipresent. Sometimes what happens when he's on the field, especially with Jude and Vinny and Mbappe, his usage is the lowest of the 4 because naturally those guys are more ball dominant. But he was very active today, and he had the freedom, as he usually does, to roam on both wings. The second strike in particular, which was an incredible goal we haven't talked about yet, the Jude back heel and then Rodyrgo first touch. The ball striking. If he can just put his damn laces through it and strike it like that, because I think a lot of the times where he just shoots it at a keeper, it's very tame when he shoots it. He needs to just really strike the ball. And that's what he did on the second goal. The ball striking was really good today.
Yeah, that's where I don't want to make it all negative and say he's the lowest XG. I think he's a weird one, and I rarely say this, but he's one of the only players when he came onto the scene, we saw room with the left-right foot finishes of someone who could be a genuine plus finisher, which is rare. Usually they're just high aggregators of chances, but he can be a plus finisher. And I think the fact that the chances he's missed for so many years are the ones where he actually can strike it better. And the ones he scores are the ones where he kind of his finishes for years have been finishes where he adds value. They're not easy chances. And he's failed the easy ones for years. So he could put it all together. And, it's just a question of where he does it, who he does it for, all those things. But until the end of the season, Rodyrgo, we're with you.
Adar Zulukovic says City on the verge of elimination. Let me just just give 10 seconds on this one, Sid. They lost to PSG 4-2 the same time we were playing. Who was their last game against? It's against Club Brugge. Oh, yeah. I don't think they're gonna fumble this. I mean, they've been bad, but I don't think they're this bad to fumble that last game. What do you think?
I'm just checking this table because if Brugge are anything but near the bottom, City could fumble pretty much anyone in this table except like the very bottom. So they're 20th. They are ahead of PSG.
So they're going to be playing for their lives in that game.
Yeah, dude, I'm not so sure, to be honest, because the problem with City is they're in the funk Mbappe was in. Anything can go wrong. When you're in that type of funk, whatever has to go wrong will go wrong.
They're all in the Mbappe funk. That's the funny thing.
Yeah, so let's just go through. I just want to check their Club Brugge's results real quick in the Champions League. If
this is not, we're getting too much in the weeds now. Now you're gonna start looking up Club Brugge tactics.
0-0 against Juventus. 0-0 against Juventus. Juventus, didn't they beat Man City? So it's not that straightforward, Kiyan. I just want to say they beat Anderlecht 3-0. Genk, Sporting. They beat I guess Ruben Amorim had left Sporting when they beat them 2-1. Drew 1-1 against Celtic. They seem like they can muck it up. They lost 3-1 to Milan. They had a red card. Hey, there's a chance, is all I'm saying. But hey, if they make it through, Kiyan, that means City are just fodder for us. So we can finish them off. Third time in 4 years, Carlo gets the dub.
I hate when you get ahead of yourself like this. I hate it. Mr. Sushi is back to say Ceballos had a 98% passing accuracy in the Champions League. Go. Yeah, we mentioned that. Great performance. Our YouTube member Ancorgiotti Bordeloy says, I was pretty worried in the first half till we scored the first goal. Thoughts on Asensio and Arda? City bottled their lead. Bayern exposed. Barca defense was a joke. I hope our scouts are taking notes and planning ahead.
That's what I'm saying, Kiyan. The people.
The last sentence, our scouts are absolutely not taking notes and planning ahead against Barca.
No, they are, but nobody. The scouts are taking notes, but the report doesn't get opened by Carlo. Like he opens it at halftime if we're down in the game.
Asensio and Arda. 2 players we haven't talked about yet. I thought Asensio had a couple poor moments in this game. A little bit shaky on a couple of sequences in the first half.
He had that moment where he got beat, right? The guy cut in on him.
Yeah, I think it was Gluch in the 11th minute.
Yes.
And then he had one in the 18th minute, but then he recovers and blocks the ball into the box. He did have one like in the 58th minute. Rodyrgo has a very aggressive gamble. He gets beat. Asensio sprints over and stops the breakaway. I think that was a good moment. But you just said that was just my notes. He didn't have that much to do. Ball progression is very good still, and just a couple moments where he looked a little bit shaky defensively in the first half.
He's more paranoid than Chouameni. You could argue that their like aggregate number of mistakes might be similar per 90, but he plays with a paranoia that I just like, that I think is more conducive to long-term success at center back. I agree about the first half before we scored the goal. If you guys just want to see a quick mark stats, I can. If you want to finish that now,
yeah. No, at some point we gotta share Mark stats at least once every post game show. So bring him in.
Let me go. But you can see what I was talking about in the first 10
By
minutes.
the way, while you bring that up, Nishos Patel just confirming something from earlier where we were talking about Vasquez. He's suspended on yellows.
Oh, okay, that makes sense because you really could get away with it this game. Let me just share the mark stat here while we talk about those first 20 minutes from the old one. So. I mean, you can see just the first 15, like we're just starting, like 10 minutes in, you can see this, the expected threat. We don't really get a foothold. They get their first chance. And it's just like, again, we're playing a horrible team, but at the start of the game, we need 10 minutes before we can figure out how we're going to win the ball back. We're just not that drilled defensively. And our lineup was not that great for it. From there, you can see we slowly start getting possession before the first goal. We weren't penetrating, though. You can see no shots before the first goal. But we start getting the ball, so possession without penetration. After the first goal, the floodgates open. Anything else from Mark our stats here? Build up completion, blah, blah, blah. I guess Modric, 132 pass attempts, 120 passes. I mean, he's what? Is he 40 yet, Kiyan? Or is he still 39?
I don't know.
LeBron just turned 40. I'm waiting for Modric to turn 40 because 40 is the one where it gets
still
weird.
39.
Yeah, well, 40 is where it gets like just crazy to even say. 38, 39, you have that 30 word. But once you just change the prefix, it's 40. You're not even in the same decade anymore.
40 is crazy. I mean, like, I'm kind of like, I'm getting to 40 and it's just crazy to think about.
But only
Sheikh
2 xg
Hatiri-
today. Only 2 xg today compared to 5 over the weekend. For what it's worth, just consider when you watch those games, like the chances were 3 xg apart. Like that's big, right, Kiyan?
Yeah, 3 xg apart, but also like it. I mean, it felt like more. I'm actually surprised it was only 2 because we had so much space to work with as the game progressed. But Sheikh Hatiri says Asensio's pass and dribble are technical to play right back. I think Asensio's passing, ball progression, and press resistancy and ability on the ball are very, very good.
He's very
And
Sergio Ramos.
he's got similar mannerisms too.
But I agree. If you can make those reads at center back, you probably can do the same on the touchline because you have the touchline as a defender, less angles. You can like he's making complex decisions.
Mr. Sushi is back with his 3rd super chat. I love it. Much respect. Ceballos and Brahim are the glue that holds this team together, in my opinion. Both have been essential, helping new players settle and seem to be friends with everyone. Also, both always give 100% effort. I think there's very little to disagree with here. These are, I mean, and I love the fact that Brahim is Ceballos because we already talked a lot about and already. Brahim was featured in my column this week, and just the fact that he's top, I think 3. I think it was top 3, 4, 5. One of those, like he was either top 3 or 5 goal creating actions per 90 in all of Europe, like Big 5 leagues. He does damage when he comes in off the bench. Like it's just pure carnage. He comes in and he just, for lack of a better word, fuck shit up. And he's just a great squad player to have. To be honest, like I wasn't sure what to expect when he came back from Milan because I watched all of those Milan games when he was there on loan for those 2 years, and it was up and down. But he has exceeded my expectations. Just the way he ended off in that second year with Milan, it wasn't great. The first year was fantastic, but then he got COVID and then he kind of slowed down a little bit. But he looks great. I couldn't be happier with both those guys.
Brahim might be I just want to say Brahim might be the reason Goulet is having some trouble like getting his niche because you kind of bring him in and then Brahim blows up in the advanced right half space area and is more versatile than you can dream of being, even if you're maybe a higher value ceiling player. So Brahim has been big because we also don't start games well all the time since the start of last season or for many seasons now, maybe since Carlo came back. But since we don't start games well, I feel like a lot of our sequences where we've actually went to win games have come when Brahim's been on the pitch since he came back. And it's been beautiful. It's just one of the coolest stories in football, I think. Like this bench dude, not really seen as a main option, very important to the success of the biggest team in the world. And that's also why I'm a little, Goulet, Ceballos is also why we could be optimistic with Goulet. There is a non-linear path to succeeding at Real Madrid, even if it doesn't seem obvious at first. With Ceballos, though, like he was nowhere last season. It's like he showed up 18 months ago and then he came out of nowhere again. And it's just funny that we won a Champions League in between when he was out of form, and then he's like coming back when we're out of form. He shows up.
One more super chat, and then I had a quick question I wanted to ask you. Ashutosh Kumar says, should we move to 4 midfielders for tougher games?
Well, that's what I was wondering today. I still think we need a Camavinga, and it's not because of what Rodyrgo or like these guys add to offense. I don't want to lose that. But like the first 20 minutes, how we didn't win the ball back, how Salzburg just passed it around at points. That's why I think we need a Camavinga. I feel like it's not even the structure. He just kind of goes, wins the ball back. Like we don't have a structure. So yeah, I think so. I don't know if we can. I don't think we can win with like this approach in big games. I think we end up going down against most big teams.
I am a firm believer that it really doesn't matter so much about formation. It really matters how you're setting up defensively. What's your scheme? You could have a 4th midfielder or a 3rd attacker instead. And if you have a disjointed press, if you're trying to press and you can't, if your first line of defense is permeable, if you're not tracking runners into the box, if you have, Vasquez getting cooked on the right, all this stuff, it's kind of semantics to me. Fix your scheme. Before the season started, I said that, yeah, I think it makes sense to balance this with like Camavinga as your 4th extra midfielder instead of Rodyrgo. But I also like it. It's kind of jarring to like kind of sit here every time, like no matter who's on the field, and have similar problems. And for what it's worth, Rodyrgo is a perfect guy to play if you're going to play a third attacker because he also defends really well. He works hard on defense.
Yes, and when we play the extra midfielder, we don't always build up better necessarily, and we can't always play Modric in that spot. If we do, maybe we look too slow. So yeah, there are other issues for sure.
Right. So the question I wanted to ask you, and I think this is a mistake to ask you this, because I don't think it's possible to answer this quickly. But this is a true test. This might be your biggest test and challenge on the Managing Madrid podcast yet, Sid. Let's see if we can keep this to under 1,000 words. So Marca put out this provisional chart of like where we would like who we would play in the next round, possibly based on the current seeding and like realistic seeding and stuff. And right now it would be somehow Bayern Munich. But what's crazy is that Barca's reward, like for example, I don't get how this works, but they have Barca playing against Liverpool in the quarterfinals because they don't have to play a round of 16, obviously, right?
What?
So they skipped that, and I'm not entirely sure how that works. I'm a little bit confused. I don't know if Marca made a mistake or what it was, but I don't know. But anyway, either way, they kind of have us playing against Bayern right now, who obviously lost to Feyenoord today. I don't know. I maybe I shouldn't have brought this up. Maybe this is a conversation.
I think that might be wrong, only in the sense that pretty sure top four seeds are kept apart before the semifinals. But listen, we don't need to go into the minutiae of who we can play. But the reality is that this team is much easier to upset than any of our last three teams. Like I think in a smaller game, it is as easy to upset in a smaller game as the 2023 team. Yeah, the one in between that didn't win. So that's why like playing guys like Fede, Asensio together, getting them the reps now so that we don't go and play Vasquez or play a back line that gets torched and then complain, oh, they can't defend. Like, I just don't want to see that. And that's the big worry right now. I think, ironically, like kind of like we saw last year, I honestly think our odds don't fluctuate as heavily from team to team. Like, I think you go into a matchup, we have a decent shot no matter what. But teams like Dortmund and Leipzig last year just walked through our back line. That's still a possibility. So that table, I wouldn't fear any one tie. I would more look for the sequence of ties. You want a few easy ties in a row. But man, we can lose to any small team, and we're not like a pushover against any big team. But it's really like we're in this uncomfortable place where the margins are not comfortable when we win. Like it's not gonna be look pretty. It's probably gonna need some bullshit black magic to happen. I think that's where we're at right now. So I don't think we should be looking at the draw and licking our lips at small teams. Ironically, I'm in that phase this year. I'm not we can cook City, but that's because City are the worst team left in the damn Champions League. They have a demented coach playing a demented style of football right now. Like they're a robot that's like short-circuited and still trying to be a robot. No, dude, like you got to plug the power back. Don't even go out there. So
yeah, but I mean, even still with City, I mean, you never know. Like just your luck, they would get their shit together. Like in the knockout rounds.
If we lose to City, that's on us. Any other team we lose to, fine. Like you can blame the board, Carlo, different things. If we lose to City, that's just pathetic in my opinion. Because look at the teams that are cooking them, Kiyan. They're worse than Barca. Barca are getting unlucky. They're not even getting unlucky. They just suck.
One last point. I mean, I obviously read that chart wrong, and I kind of I just blame how confusing this Champions League format is so far. And it's the first year, so by next year we'll probably have some kind of better. We just know like what's coming a little bit better, but
we would play.
It was Arne Slot who was talking about this in a press conference like a few days ago. That like he's not really putting an importance on seeding. Like he's not like trying to get Liverpool like to jostle like as high as possible. I mean, obviously they're trying to win every game, and for that reason they're at the top of the table and they look great. But his overall point was like you could come first and just through shit luck, a great team falls in that last seed that you have to play. Alternatively, you could come 5th, 6th, and just get an easier draw. So I get what he's saying. It's a little bit weird because not all teams are going full throttle every game because the margin of error is so great, which means if you are that team that goes full throttle, you might be actually, your reward might just be a difficult draw, and it's out of your control. I'm not saying you have to like throw games to be lower seed. I'm just saying that like it's really hard.
That's why I'm laughing at Barca, because I feel like Liverpool have not gone full throttle. They're just playing their game, and they're one of the best teams in Europe. They have a very settled team that's been together for years, whereas many teams are in flux. Barcelona, they're going all out for these, man. They're really hyped on their place, and you only avoid the top 4 seeds. So in our case, by the way, I don't know how Marcia said it, but I'm pretty sure we can play anyone from, well, I don't know why we'd play Bayern, but shouldn't it be anyone from 16 to 24? So PSG, Eindhoven, Celtic.
I think the mark screwed me up because the graphic was terribly designed and my brain just short-circuited trying to like decipher it. So I shouldn't have even looked at that.
Bayern's the last team in the table we don't play. Anyone after that is fair game.
Well, no, Bayern and Real Madrid actually would make sense because it's number 15 and 16. So because if it goes 124, or sorry, if it goes
4 to 24, right?
Well, top 8 are guaranteed. So you go 9, 24, 10, 23, 11, 22, 12, 21, 13, 20, 14, 19, 15, 18. So it would be Bayern versus Celtic and us against Juve.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So what you're actually playing for now is actually one less coin flip in the round of 32. That's what you're playing with the top seeds.
That's what I meant to say. Round of I think I jumped the gun and said top 8 qualify for quarterfinals. I meant round of 16. Yeah.
No, I mean that's still dumb. I thought the top. I guess that makes sense. You need to make the top 8 qualify, and then you need 16 teams to play for 8 spots. But so you play for top 4 to avoid the other top 4 teams. But what we're playing for is top 8 to avoid a round of 32 going forward. That is the big incentive in the Champions League. I think it is. Yeah. I think it is creative because, like, it's not about the teams at that point, but every coin toss just lowers your probability of winning the whole thing. Like, it just reduces your odds. So,
which, by the way, we are 3 points back of 5th place.
Nice.
So I don't know I don't know what's going to happen in that last game. Obviously, that's like best case scenario for like a bunch of people lose ahead of you and then you jump that high. But top 8, we're only 1 point back, so we can still qualify in the top 8. This table changes dramatically week to week. That's the crazy part.
Well, if I'm
City
around
have 8 points, and the highest they can jump is to like 19th if they win.
We definitely should have waited because we're gonna have to do this next Wednesday again after. Like whenever. Like
it's my biggest regret in life is bringing this up. I deeply regret it.
We're gonna cook City.
Immediately regretted the decision.
We're gonna cook City no matter what, and I'm gonna just call it, y'all. If Arsenal has Saka, they're a little bothersome. Bayern and Barca is like a coin toss. To be honest, this year doesn't look good, boys. Like it's not looking good right now. I'm just gonna be up front. Like I'm not feeling it this year. If I'm feeling it, I'll tell you closer to the round of 32. But right now, it is not written in the stars. Last year was written in the stars. You know, we felt it after Girona, after the Super Cup. This year, if it happens, it's not written in the stars.
I'd like to say something as we sign off here. We record podcasts all the time. I think if you average it out, it's actually more than one a day. It's like 1.5 a day, probably. When you factor in Real Deal, Castilla Corner, Las Blancas, member shows, free shows, segments with Leah, Angelo's coming back next week, all this stuff. So I don't say this too often because we have such a high volume of shows. And all like none of the shows are redundant or repetitive because it's Real Madrid. There's just so much to talk about every day. But few episodes have stood out to me as the one I recorded yesterday for our members with Vic. So we had, Vic Sopti. So we had a radiologist on the show and he explained like beautifully, eloquently, articulated like why Real Madrid are getting so many ACL injuries and what the hell is going on. And a lot of the feedback on that episode has been great. So if you want to listen to it, go to patreon.com/Managing Madrid. If you're on YouTube or you don't have Patreon in your country, just hit the memberships tab. Oh, sorry, YouTube super chat. Sheikh Atiri, my bad, we missed this. Shay says it's correct. 15th plays against 16th. But will probably end 9th or 10th. It would beat Brest and might play City or PSG. Yeah. either way, like this is going to be, it's going to be tough to predict what's going to happen. So let's come back to it. Sid, thanks for hopping on, buddy. I appreciate you. You have Real Deal getting published tonight or tomorrow. So you guys look out for that. And it was a pleasure chatting with you guys. Thanks for joining live on YouTube. Big numbers tonight. Pretty much never dipped below 400 live viewers, all podcasts. So that was awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. We'll see you guys later. And peace out.